Pleasure to be here with you as your media partner, but it's even bigger pleasure to be here with you, Esther Dyson, today. Now, you are not here, I know, to speak to us, but you are here to speak with us.
Right.
That's important. But one thing I'd like you, however, to speak and tell us, and that is why you are here today.
Okay, and this is not so much about why I came here, but
who you are.
Why with luck it's going to be worth listening to me. I've been involved with the internet for a long, long time. I started using email in 1989. The reason I did that was I went to Russia where I met some software programmers, and the only way to communicate with them was to use email. So that was when I first got really interested in this business. I was an analyst following the computer industry. In the mid-90s, I kept telling people I'd been following the American computer industry, and suddenly I got fascinated with Russia and Eastern Europe. I speak Russian. And I kept telling people, you should invest in Eastern Europe. And they said, And then one of them came to me and said, you say we should invest in Eastern Europe. Suppose I gave you $1 million. Would you invest it for me? And I said, no, I'm a journalist. I have a holy calling. I can't invest. Sorry, $1 million? Okay. So I added a little money of my own, and I started a very small venture fund to invest in Central and Eastern Europe. One of the companies was called Middle Europe Networks. It was guaranteed to be successful. It was a joint venture with CompuServe. It was a known brand name. It was in Hungary, which was safer in Russia. And of course, it wasn't very successful. The one that was most successful was a company called Scala, which did accounting software. But the point of this is I began to invest in Central and Eastern Europe, where with $100,000 you could be a big, important investor, whereas with the same amount in the US you were nothing. So I learned by trial and error rather than being an official venture capitalist. And now, fast forward to today, indirectly I had money in Google. I was an investor in Flickr, which was sold to Yahoo. I was an investor in MedStory, which was sold to Microsoft a few months ago. I have a whole lot of other startups. And I'm on the board of WPP Group, which I'm sure you've all heard of. You probably haven't heard of any of my other startups. They're small, they're cute, they're innovative. And to some extent, what I'm going to talk to you about today in answer to Lisbeth's questions, and then in answer to your questions, is how the world looks from the point of view of someone who's involved with startup technologies, startup companies, startup markets. You may find me rather American, but I'm really not. I'm just kind of a disruptive, bottom-up kind of person.
Actually, you were born in Switzerland.
And I was born in Switzerland, yeah.
Well, before I move on with a few questions for Esther, I think it is also time for us to do as we've been preaching all day. I mean, the whole headline for this Congress has been to turn focus to our consumers, to have consumers' attention. And for this reason, I think we should turn on the lights for our audience, because you've been sitting here all day and consuming lots of important information from the panel. So maybe you could now turn it a bit around. And while I ask questions for Esther, it would be very nice if some of you would actually take the challenge and come up here and ask her a few questions, please. Yes. But first...
And if they could really make the lights light so that we can actually see people, it's still pretty dark in there. I feel like an advertiser who can't quite see his market. Yeah. And believe it or not, I really do want to know you guys.
Well, one of the new things mentioned here is attention economy.
Yeah.
Which means that while marketers talk about getting consumers' attention, you are saying that consumers really want to have the attention. Yeah. Now, what are the changes that you see ahead? What's happening?
I'm going to try to talk clearly and slowly. I still wish the guys in the back, if there's any more light, it would be great. This really, this is kind of the point. Yeah, getting better. you hear a lot about getting the consumer's attention. Consumers may or may not want to give attention, but what they really want is attention for themselves. When I heard about the mirror, what it made me think of is that consumers want the internet to be a mirror of themselves. They don't want mirror marketing technologies. They want to see themselves reflected. And when I go into a store, I want to be recognized not as, oh, hello, middle-aged white woman with an income of 100,000 plus. I want to be recognized either as, oh, Esther, you're the one who bought the red sweater last week. Did you like it? Or if they don't want to recognize me personally, then they should just say hello politely. But they shouldn't put me in a bucket and pretend they know me when they simply have some vision of what they think I might be and what I might want to buy. But beyond that, the real point I'm trying to make is that you as marketers can't really give people all this attention. You're giant conglomerates, or you're representing giant conglomerates. You're a biscuit company, or you're a trainer company. You're not equipped to give consumers attention. Their friends are equipped to give them attention. They are more interested in the attention of people than in marketing messages. And the thing to understand is these people are uniquely informed. They're also uniquely cynical. They understand what's going on. They understand you're trying to get their attention, and they don't mind it. You know, they want the discount on the shoes. They want the free stuff. They want you to give them things that they want. They don't mind being recognized. But what satisfies them as human beings is something quite different. It's the attention of their friends. It's the respect of their friends. They trust their friends' opinions more than they trust your opinions. They know you're trying to sell them something, and they don't think that's evil necessarily, but they're wise to what you're trying to do, and they don't actually want to be buying things all the time. They like going online and doing stuff for free. They like listening to music, but they don't particularly want to buy it. That's, unfortunately, your business is not the center of their universe.
So now that our business as advertisers and media is not center of consumers' focus, how do you think that will change our business?
Well,
or should change our business?
It will. It's just like long ago there were trains, and the successful people in the train business, some of them became airline companies. The successful people in your business, they may not be in, quote, advertising. They may be in influence. They may be in running online communities. The business models will change. The things you get revenue for will change. If I had to say one, and I mean, this is all slightly staged. We talked about this before, obviously. And you don't mind listening, I hope, even though you know it's slightly staged. Again, you expect a performance. You expect something to be, you expect to be manipulated. If people manipulate you well, you like it. If they manipulate you poorly, it's offensive. So we'll continue the conversation we had over lunch. This business is going to become more like public relations. Advertising is sending direct messages to consumers. Public relations is figuring out, well, who is influential? In the old days, it was journalists. Get the journalists, and then they'll write the stuff, and the people will read it, and they'll believe your message. Now it may not be journalists. It may be bloggers. Some people think those are journalists. Some think they aren't. I don't really care. The influential ones are influential. The ones that aren't influential, it doesn't matter. They may be influential in a very small part of the world. It may be people who go to parties. You know, get Paris Hilton to drink your vodka, and it's much better than lots of ads. Find the people that matter to their communities around your products and get them to carry your message. The other thing, though, is if your message doesn't match your reality, don't fix the message. Fix the reality. This is really a world where bad products get discovered. When I do this all the time. I was at a hotel the other day, and the wake-up call that was supposed to be at 7 o'clock came at 7:20. So I took a picture of my clock, and I said my so-called wake-up call at 7 a.m. The clock was showing at this point 7:30. And I put it online with the name of the hotel. I don't know if it really caused their business to drop, but it gave me a certain amount of satisfaction. And over time, people are going to do that to you if you don't deliver. So you may be trying to send your PR message, but your product, the experience of your product, the reality of it, is also sending a message directly. And so, to some extent, you need to get better at listening, not at talking. And then you need to take that listening back to whoever it is that's making the product or the service that you're selling and tell them what to fix. You also need to be better at responding. When people complain, respond to them. It's amazing how effective it is to listen. To say, I'm sorry, we won't do this next time, we'll try harder, that kind of thing.
Well, going into the blogs and the social networking, I think you have been quoted for saying that it's a bit overhyped after all, and that you're a bit have a difficulty with the fact checking on the blogs. So can we rely on them?
You can't rely on blogs. There will always be blogs that get things wrong. But if you do a good job, more blogs will be in your favor. It's not a perfect world. The thing I said about, first of all, yes, I think blogs are way overhyped. People say, oh, should we have a blog? And you should have a blog if you have something to say. But if you have nothing to say, don't just put your press releases online and call them blogs. People won't read that stuff. If you do have something to say, a blog is a great medium, but actually so is a press release or a magazine article or an advertisement. The point is the message, not the medium. The second thing about blogging is simply, I personally find it hard to do because I started my career as a fact checker, working for Forbes magazine, and blogs tend not to check their facts. They do tend to overreact if they're angry or if they're happy or whatever. So no, they're not a particularly reliable source of information, just as someone you meet at a cocktail party isn't a reliable source of information. But that same person is a very reliable source of what are people's opinions. You can look at the blogs and you can figure out, do people like you or hate you? What things are capturing people's attention? But the blogs, too, they're a mirror of the reality. And the reality, again, is whether your product or service is delivering what people want and whether it's delivering what you promised. If you have a second-rate hotel and you market it as a second-rate hotel, people will be happy. If you market the second-rate hotel as a first-rate hotel, people will feel that you're trying to deceive them.
Yeah. Now you are on the board of the WPP.
Yeah.
You probably can't tell us much about what's going on in the board, but you could tell us your opinion what should happen to this company to fit the future.
Well, WPP Group and I would say all advertising groups are undergoing a fair amount of change. It's interesting. One direction is much more quantitative. Research, you can do amazing things sampling opinion online. You can certainly look at blogs both by reading them, or you can simply do statistical analysis of the use of words and how often the word excellent appears about your product and how often the word outrageous or disgusting. You can pick your own. But the other thing is the rise of both public relations, public affairs, this kind of influence as opposed to marketing. Clearly, the move towards digital, the need to better understand the new generation and the new marketplace. And I think the most important change is, again, understanding that, there's this notion, take video. Everybody's really excited about video. You can do amazing videos. You've seen some today. And then what do marketers do? Many times, or they talk about user-generated video. Then they put the message. They distract your attention. They put the video as an interruption. Marketers are used to interrupting people. What they have to learn is to engage people. Don't interrupt them while they're watching a movie and make them see something else. But maybe while they're watching the movie, put in a link and say, if you're interested in such and such, you can click here. And then you can go back to your movie. Or product placement is becoming a much bigger part of advertising. It's still hard to measure. It's much tougher to do well without being annoying. But the message here is that advertising is changing fundamentally, and if you don't do it, someone else will. So I spent a lot of time talking to a particular video company, and they're trying to teach advertisers how to bring users along with the video rather than putting the video in front. It's like if you tell someone you have to eat dinner before dessert, they won't like the dinner. They'll focus on the dessert. If you make the dinner delicious all by itself and you put your message into the dinner, then they'll eat the dinner very happily. So it means things like getting users to create ads around your product rather than creating the ads yourself. It means somehow enriching whatever it is you're selling with the ability for users to go online and get other users' attention. Again, you don't have time to pay attention to all these people, but all the other people who use your product do. And it may turn out that women with children like to talk about their children. While they're doing that, you can have a diaper company sponsor that. People have common interests, and if you create a place where they want to talk to one another that you sponsor as a product, they'll be very happy. If you show them ads about babies and diapers, they don't really want that. They do want to talk to other mothers who've had the same problems, other mothers who are, my baby is 6 months old and his teeth haven't come yet. Is that good or bad? Or, I don't know what.
So that's the future for the advertising industry, to create these kind of spaces for the communities?
To create spaces where consumers can pay attention to one another. Now, you've heard today, there's huge diversity. It's not that advertising as we know it will disappear, but it is that the growth in advertising is going to be a lot of different new formats, and most of them won't be 30 seconds. They'll be somehow integrated into the rest of the consumer's experience. And you need, as you've heard this morning, you need to give up control.
Yeah. Now, if some of you have a question, could you come up here to this lady with the orange T-shirt? Very welcome. There's one next to you.
My name is Laila Pavone. I'm president of IAB Italy and managing director of Isobar. What about privacy? Because we talk about consumer attention, the economy of attention. We are talking about technology. And I don't want to enter in the matter of cookies, but anyway, it's an important part of the...
Yes.
What do you think about, the risk to make a privacy violation?
I think it may be somewhat different in Europe, but in the United States, which I know best, I think the advertising community is doing a terrible job because they are trying to keep cookies secret. I was a member of something called SafeCount, which now is part of the IAB in the US, and nothing has happened with it. The idea was to educate consumers what cookies do, so that they could make their own decision about whether they wanted to be tracked or not. I think this is an issue that is waiting to explode, and it's going to be a problem for the marketers. So I personally don't mind being tracked, but I want to have that choice. The problem is trying to tell consumers about cookies is either going to scare them or bore them. Mm-hmm. They really don't want to try and understand this complicated thing. They sort of know they're being tracked, but they don't really understand what's going on. And I think it's our job to educate them better so that they won't be surprised later.
To educate the customers,
yeah.
or to educate
the customers.
Yeah.
I wrote a blog post, if anybody's interested. It's an amazing title for a blog post. It's called The Process of Informed Consent. I think consent forms are disgusting. They're badly written. They're not designed to be read. They're designed to be looked at so that you can click at the bottom, I accept. I think consent forms, again, you can do your own as a company, but my model consent form is designed more in the form of a quiz to make sure that the user does understand what he's saying yes to. And then at the end, if he answered the questions correctly, he can click I accept. But if he answers them wrong, he can't make an informed consent if he doesn't know what he's consenting to. So I think tracking is great, but I think it's great only if users know what's being done to them.
So do you think companies who do not have the proper info ethic could backfire on them, and consumers
yes.
would explode in anger? Or
you know, there are now in the United States, America Online put some data up for research purposes, and it turned out that they could identify these individuals, you know, including some poor woman who had a sick dog, and she was buying this kind of medicine and that kind of medicine and so forth. And it's just like oil spills, we call them data spills. Mm. So as I said, I can't tell you about what WPP is doing, but I can tell you that I am encouraging WPP to become a leader on this issue, because I think it's an important one, and I think the companies that lead in the long run will do better.
This is Mauro Lupi from Ad Maiora, an Italian web agency, and also I'm involved in IAB Italy too. Well, a question regarding the relation with companies and bloggers. Probably software technologies like AdSense should be considered a way to disintermediate advertising. Do you believe that technology or maybe some services should help a connection between companies that wants to be, you know, conversate with bloggers, or, you know, is more related to PR, to give samples to bloggers like many bloggers receives? Thanks.
I didn't quite understand the question. Sorry.
No, okay. Sorry for my English. So the question is related to the relation with agencies to the new influencers,
yeah.
like bloggers. Mm-hmm. And if technology, like for example in AdSense
yeah.
for certain times, should help to meet, you know, the marketplace from the bloggers who, you know, should be interesting to talk about products in exchange of something probably, and the companies that want to be related with the bloggers. Mm-hmm. Without, you know, marketing, yeah. without treats as a journalist.
Well, I think it's fine for, I'm available, I think it's fine for people to give gifts to bloggers. I think the blogger has to disclose that, mm-hmm. and the company should make sure that the blogger does. AdSense is a way for someone simply to monetize the traffic that the blogger has. It's a way for the blogger to get paid. But going back to the Attention Society, most bloggers blog for attention. They don't blog for money. Mm. It varies, and some bloggers, you know, company blogs blog for money indirectly because they want to sell their products. But the thing that probably appeals to a blogger most is if you go to him and you say, look, we think you're really influential. We want you to take our product because we think it's a good product. We want you to disclose that we gave it to you for free. And then we want you to write honestly about whether you liked it or not. And the market will work. If your product is bad, probably some bloggers will take it and will not disclose that you gave it to them for free and will write nice things about it because they want another free product even though it's not very good. But the good and honest bloggers will take it. They will disclose that they got it for free and they'll say, you know, it's not that great. And then with luck, your client will improve the product. That's how it should work.
Hi Esther, my name is Andre. I'm from New Europe Online. I'd like to ask you a few questions about Google. Google has had, of course, a tremendous impact. Is not a search company anymore. Has entered the traditional media landscape with TV, radio. Is going after image search, ad networks, video, and others. And where do you see the next generation of a company that would disrupt Google will come from? Do you think it will require a sea change in the platform that we're using? Is there room for a new competitor that will disrupt this industry? Or, for instance, for PowerSet?
Yeah. Okay, just for those who don't know, I'm an investor in Google because I have some stock, which I got through Kleiner Perkins. And I'm also an investor in PowerSet, which is a startup focused on natural language search, though I think they misposition themselves and they should call themselves, they're focused on natural language activity. But let me try and answer your question. First of all, I don't think Google is the end of history. In terms of this industry, I'm very, very old. I knew Bill Gates back in the 80s. I knew Microsoft. I've seen IBM, Microsoft, Netscape, Google. And I do think there will be something beyond Google. Right now, the best guess is it will be Facebook.
Facebook.
Yes. Facebook is exactly what I was talking about in terms of the attention economy. People, and Mark Zuckerberg, who's the founder of Facebook, said it to me very nicely a couple of years ago. He said, Google thinks the purpose of communication is to get information. And we at Facebook think the purpose of information is to support communication between people. People go on Facebook to share information about what they're doing, to see what their friends are doing. It's really an information marketplace. Information is not bought and sold for money, but it's traded. And then marketers and advertisers and people like that go to Facebook because that's where the people are, and that's where the people are paying attention to one another. If you go to Google, it's like going to an information warehouse. You're there alone. The rankings and the ads, which are determined by click-through rates, they're often dependent on what other people do. They're dependent on what webmasters do. But you feel you're there alone with the information. You go to Facebook, and you're among friends. You're in a community. Facebook has just done some amazing things a week and a half ago in terms of opening up their platform to third parties. Advertisers are welcome, though it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. If it becomes a completely commercial space, I think it won't be successful. But Google, miraculous as it is definitely not the end. And as marketers, I think you should be paying a lot more attention to the place where people collect together rather than where they collect one by one.
I know you're talking about Google as a search engine. I know that you have this idea we should switch a bit our demands for the search engines and not only search and fetch, but actually deliver by the search.
Yeah, okay. So that's looking at Google as an advertising platform. When you look at the actual process of search, mostly when I'm searching, and this is closer to what PowerSet does, mostly when I'm searching, I'm not really interested in getting a list of web pages. I'm interested in, ideally, I'd love to see a chart of all acquisitions of internet companies for more than $1 billion. I'd like to perhaps book a flight from New York to Bangalore. I might want to buy a certain product. I might want to simply find out who in my community is looking for a job because I have a marketing position open at one of my companies. So I don't really want a list. I actually want to accomplish a transaction. And a tool that can help me do that, that understands what I want to make happen rather than what I want to know, is where the market is going. That's much more complicated. You could say that Orbitz or lastminute.com, they're vertical market examples of this focused only on travel. Now to have something that's broader, that's focused, that's not as focused, that's actually more general as a good secretary, that would be an exciting platform. But it's pretty far away.
I'm also Italian. We all are Italian here.
Welcome here. Your name?
Maurizio Fionda. I work in the email marketing industry. I believe the virtual worlds will be the next new economy boom, maybe even bigger than the first one. What do you think about?
You're talking about Second Life, no doubt.
No, virtual worlds in general.
In general, but Second Life
is one
yeah.
example of first world,
Yeah.
but I think this is going to be something different, maybe more open.
Yeah, I'd sort of say I think Facebook is closer to that, to the next big thing. Virtual worlds are still, I think they're going to be very popular for some subset. But I'm not quite as excited about them as some people are. So that's sort of the basic answer. There's nothing wrong with them. They will be a part of the landscape, and there will be people who love them. I think online games are, whether you consider that part of virtual worlds or not, I think those two will morph. And if you spend a lot of your time interacting with people, why not interact online as opposed to offline? So, yes, but I think by the time virtual worlds are really successful, they will probably have merged to some extent with places like Facebook. Some people will have avatars, and some won't.
Well, we have
so it becomes the real world, but it's represented virtually.
We're very soon running out of time.
Okay.
Maybe I can ask you one thing
Sure.
in the end. It's not easy to answer, I'm afraid. But we have a globe here with a lot of common problems. Do you think that the future and all this communication can produce some solutions? Or do you think what would happen to our cultures? We all going to be alike?
Yeah. I think the best solution to problems in the world is probably an invasion by extraterrestrial aliens. The only thing that's really going to bring us all together is some external enemy, whether it's genuinely an invasion from the moon or global warming or something like that. I love the internet, but I love it as an expression of human creativity, and I think it properly fosters diversity. It fosters people doing what they want to do. Because people want to do different things, I think it will, in a sense, create more heterogeneity. I think it will also, on average, more people will be happier because they will be able to do what they want. People who are not successful, however, will know that it was their own fault. They can't blame it on external factors. So the internet is not going to change human nature. It's simply going to allow it to be accentuated, whatever that means.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for now.